this?
Well, I'm not a political animal, Tahi, but I think it actually brings out the worst behaviour in human beings when you get into this situation in politics. I mean, he's obviously a wounded animal, Brian Cowan, and I mean that in the position that he's in. And I think everyone in his self-interest, do I have a go at him? Do I bring him down? I'm talking about his own party now. I'm not talking about the opposition. And when I see this, it's not the first time it's happened. I've seen it in England. We've seen it elsewhere. That politicians, I think they're a breed apart anyway, politicians. And when it comes to this situation, it's self-interest, 1, 2, and 3.
It's easier to get rid of a football manager, isn't it?
well, as you see, it's a similar type of situation, actually, Claire, as you see with football managers, except that they go quicker than leaders of political parties.
Surely to God, Chris, the opposition, they've had...
Fogarty to Saver to Giles. To Hale for Ireland, back to Dunn. Dunn on to Giles. Giles trying to get through the centre, and the tall centre half of Iceland taps to the touch. Ordor Felixson. Cantwell to Giles. Giles a centre. High. Sorry, a header. A goal. A beautiful goal. And that's the lead for Ireland. Scored by Liam Turry after 11 minutes play. 1-0 to score. Back to Fogarty. He crosses the ball high. Comes to Giles. Giles shoots, and he's 20 inches over. Oh, good effort. A fine effort by Johnny Giles.
Johnny, all the way back in 1962, Ireland and Iceland. 4-2, good result on the day.
Oh, yeah, it was a win.
You said in your book that, that football was a dream. Did you ever dream, I suppose, when you were young, that you'd go on to play for Manchester United, to go on to play for Leeds in Ireland?
I did dream about it, I think most kids do. I mean, I was football mad. My father was a football man. He was manager of Drumcondra, which was a League of Ireland team. So I was brought up in a footballing family in Ormond Square, which was in Dublin. So, and there were pockets of soccer areas in Dublin in those days. It wasn't the fashionable game that it is today. But I always wanted to play football. I always wanted to go to England. And from being a young kid, Manchester United was my team. Because Jackie Carey, who was a great Irish player, played for Ireland. He was captain of Manchester United when they won the Cup in 1948. So I wanted to play for Manchester United from the time I was very, very young.
And you joined in 1956?
I went to, 1956, yeah.
There's been huge interest. We said earlier on, the book has really been successful for you, which is great news for you. And the style it's written in, I was saying, it's like hearing John speak. But why do you think people are particularly interested in your life and your career in this particular book? What do you think it is?
Well, I think it goes back such a long time, Claire, and I've been relatively low profile, I think, generally, apart from doing the football, which you do the football, you go after. I think the people would obviously the older people would remember me playing, whether it be for the Irish team or for Manchester United, for Leeds United. So I think there's a great interest in football from those days. Anyway, and there's a lot of nostalgia in it, and the people I would be talking about, people would say, as I do myself, oh, I remember him, or I've forgotten about him, or I've forgotten about that player. And hopefully it gives a taste of the times before football changed as dramatically as it has. I mean, there was no money really around in the days when I was playing football. When I first signed pro at 17, it was £20 a week, maximum wage. And you couldn't move clubs. You know, if you signed for a club at 17, you were tied to that club for life. Whereas the lads now have freedom of contract, which is really giving them the money that they get, and the maximum wage is abolished and all that. But those days were different, you know.
Yeah. John, you scored a Christmas cracker against Sweden. Why does that stand out for you?
Well, it was the first match, the first match I played for Ireland. I'd only played 2 matches for the Manchester United first team. I'd gone to Dalymount for years and years with my father to watch the Irish team play. Always wanted to play for the Irish team at Dalymount. And what was so great about it was it happened so quickly.
There you are, look, with Dev.
De
Valera, yeah. Look at the crowd at the game in those days. And that was Dalymount packed.
And that's it.
And that was a goal I scored. We were 2-0 down after 20 minutes, and it wasn't look good. And then we went on to win the game 3-2.
John, Mark Brophy got in contact with us on Twitter saying his favourite John Giles memory was Leeds 7-0 trouncing of Southampton in the 71-72 season.
Well, that was it was exhibition stuff. It wouldn't be one of my more memorable games because we were winning 7-0. Quite honestly, I was bored. I wanted to come off the pitch because the game was over as far as I was concerned, and we started to flick the ball up and flick it around. And people remember that more than games where we played in where it was a tight game, where you'd win 2-1. It was a really good win.
Or the last minute goal or something.
Yeah, well, people enjoyed it,
Yeah. John, we've so many questions and comments for you from people. We won't get through them all, but we'll do our best. Joe in Maynooth says, who was the toughest, most skillful opponent in your time in England when you played for Leeds?
Well, I said in the book, Claire, Bobby Charlton was the best player I played with and the best player I played against. Now, Bobby wasn't a tough guy. There was a man called, that's Bobby in the picture there, and myself. A lad called Dave Mackay, who played for, he was a great Tottenham Hotspur player, Scottish player, would have been the toughest I played against, the toughest. But Bobby, I'd say, was the best.
You came clean when you became a pundit, and you said that you played dirty at times.
Yeah.
Would you get away with that now, though,
I think you have to, though, do you?
Well, you see, you have to go back to the times. I played in the 60s and 70s mostly, and the 60s and 70s was different today. It was a very, very tough period. There was a licence to do lots of things that the players can't do today, for example. And I'm a small, I'm regarded as a creative player, so you're a target straight away. And I got a couple of bad tackles, bad injuries myself, and decided, look, if I'm going to last in this game, then I've got to become, as I explained to some people, I'd rather become a lion than a lamb. You'd be one or the other. So I decided to try and become a lion, to be able to look after myself, as I say, in the game, which gave me licence to play. If I didn't do that, I felt at the time, then I'd be out of the game.
How are you holding up physically as time moves on?
Okay, Claire.
Not too bad.
Bit of a wreck.
You don't look too bad, anyway. Now, yourself and Eamon Dunphy work really well on television together. Here's one of your finest moments. Have a look at this.
We'll have a look at this.
I'll ask you to sing here tonight. No, I go on. Just
he can't sing. He's got a beautiful voice. Just for us, hey, Sarah.
Come on, here we go.
Hey, Sarah, Sarah. Whatever will be. We're going to Italy. Hey, Sarah, Sarah. And again.
We know who was conducting there.
You can see that. That was Bacardi fueled, as they say in those days. And I'll tell you who I remind myself of there, with the hair, that gorilla.
Yeah.
That we saw earlier on.
Yourself and Eamon go back a long way, though.
Yeah, I met Eamon. I went to Stella Maris when I was 15, which was a schoolboy club on the north side of Dublin. And Eamon only lived about, I'd say, 50 yards down from the Stella, and he was there most of the time.
This is when you were
He looks like Robert Kennedy there. A young Robert Kennedy on the left.
He looked like Tommy Steele.
Yes, yes.
Remember Tommy Steele?
Yeah.
That was at that was Nobby Stiles' and my sister's wedding day. That photograph was from that. No, Tommy Steele, yeah. And but Eamon was only 10. I'm 5 years older than him, so I knew him at that time. And he was always down at Stella Maris Football Club, robbing the 10 tennis ball and getting into trouble.
You're always having little tips with him, though. I mean, probably one of the more serious ones was around the Saipan stuff. But just moving away from that and on to what's happened to Roy Keane now, can you see him ever being a successful manager?
Well, obviously very, very doubtful, Claire. I think he has qualities, all right, and I think he would, in my opinion, he would, if he took over a really top-class team tomorrow with top-class players, I'd say he would do well. But you don't get that position. You have to work to get. In other words, as a manager, you have to get the good players in before you can show what you can do. And at the moment, there's a basic in the game of getting good players in the club. You know, any manager won't make a bad player into a good player. He'll make a good player into a better player. And I think his judgment of players that I've seen so far hasn't been good. And you're only as good as the players you bring into the club. Yeah.
John, before we leave you go, tell us about the John Giles Foundation.
The foundation is something that, there's a saying, a lot of people, I want to put something back into the game, which I don't like saying, because you're usually looking for a job when you're saying that. So I'm not actually looking for a job, but there's a John Giles Foundation in conjunction with the FAI, which is a foundation which we hope will harness the great energy that is in the soccer community.
Yeah. And you've a big day coming up in March?
We have a big day coming. We're going to have the Walk of Dreams, which will hopefully, all the schoolboy associations and players will walk on that particular day in all parts of the country. And the proceeds, that they will keep half the proceeds for the club, and half proceeds will go to the foundation, which in turn will go back to the clubs for facilities, especially in working class and inner class.
Yeah, well, we'll put all the details on our website, and then people can have a look there and get through to it that way.
Yeah. And John, there's a few names coming in for that gorilla that we had a shout out earlier on for. Biffo, Fizzball, Dahi, Thank you very much, Caitlin. I have to get onto Facebook for
and Furious
that. Yes.
George. John, thanks again. Lovely to see you, a football man.